So before we start, let's get a kind of a feeling of the group here, and I'm going to share a little framework and what you're going to hope to learn today. First, how many corn and soybean producers? Raise your hand. How many of you corn, soybeans producers that raise your hand are no-till? I mean no-till. So if you see a piece of tillage machine, you break out into a rash. Raise your hand. Okay? How many are you no-till and cover crops religiously? I mean, if you miss a window for your covers, you get very depressed and it bothers you a lot. Raise your hand. Thank you. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Okay. How many strip tillers, please? Thank you. Guys, you don't have to feel embarrassed because it's like saying I'm an organic guy. Come on, I love organic. I love all of you. Doesn't matter. Strip tillers, and of those two strip tillers that raised their hand, how many of you guys use covers intentionally? Great, thank you guys. Awesome, awesome. Okay, how many livestock people? Awesome. How many are integrating grazing animals into their cropping system? Beautiful, awesome. Okay, how many here are with conservation districts? Raise your hand. Beautiful, beautiful. How many NRCS, USDA employees? Look at their hands. They're there to help you, the government, right? Yeah. Guys, I used to walk in there when I had my government license plate and go, oh my God, what do they want? Yeah, I get it. I was there for 30 years. But they are really there to help you. There's some amazing people there. ARS. How many ARS people? Yay. How many knew that ARS is our sister agency within RCS? How many knew that? They're our research arm. Yeah. Love ARS. Absolutely. And then I want a very good close friend of mine, and he has done so much great science. He's a good personal friend. And I don't think we realize how blessed we are to have this man and his name is Don Rakowski. Please raise your hand, Don. Give him a hand, please, for all the years of service. Don. Guys, the reason I'm telling you why I asked you to clap, I don't think people realize how Don is working in the background. He's not stopped retirement because he's really a believer of regenerative agriculture. And I personally believe that agriculture alone can heal the planet. I'll say that again. And I'll show you today, agriculture alone can heal the climate by itself. If we change nothing else. And I'll build my points today. And how powerful the soils are, and what large, I think most people don't realize the largest footprint on the planet is agriculture itself. Think about the West. The whole side of the West was rangeland. I grew up in New Mexico, so I understand that used to be native prairie. Now it's a desert. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, who did I forget? Okay, we talked private industry. Raise your hand, please. How many people in private industry? Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. Have I forgot anybody? Government, farmers, producers, anything else, Doug, that we have thought? Any farmers? And you know one thing we forgot before we even start going into this narrative? You know what? Yes? Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you. I'm going to be brutally honest. I love organic farmers, and I'll tell you why I love them so much. In fact, I buy organic. The reason I like organic farmers because they're the canary in the mine. I think they didn't like what was happening in agriculture, so thank you, organic farmers. And personally, when an organic farmer came to my office, I said, what do I do with him? That's how sad my understanding was and what they were trying to do. So thank you for being organic farmers, all of you. Now, before we start, we really need to start with Doug. Doug, I want you to come up and tell us, or do we want to do that just before lunch, or when do we want to do it, or do we want to do now? Let's do now, because I think, let's give Doug, come up here, please, And let's give him a hand, please, for letting us be on the farm. Doug, you don't know how much I appreciate you letting us on your farm. I'm going to say something real quick before Doug takes over. Guys, a lot of people don't want to ever be critiqued or think they're being judged on how they do their practices. It takes an incredibly brave and a person that's very confident in what they're doing. I bought a farm recently, the last 6 or 7 years. I will invite you to come to my farm to show you all the mistakes I have done. Because at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about learning today. So, Doug, please share with us your journey, and there they are.
My journey. Well, goes back all the way to the 80s when I was helping my dad and my brother farm. And of course, we didn't have the best, fanciest equipment. And sometimes, maybe when I was operating the digger, we had this old Steiger tractor, right? One of them ones that you had to slam your hand in the door to get mad enough to drive it. And then you'd come to the corners, and we had these old diggers, and instead of trying to back it in there, of course, that thing didn't have a very good clutch and whatever. Try and back it in the corner, and it's like, nah, just leave the corner. Well, then, when it comes time to plant, we'd come into these corners that hadn't been tilled. And I'd back the drill in there, or the corn planter, or whatever it was, and then a few days later, I'd be like, why do we have such a crappy stand where we tilled the soil and we did this and that, but where I didn't touch it in the spring and just backed in, everything is there. So that got me thinking all the way back when I was a young guy, and I started going, why are we doing this to this soil? Well, then I just started researching and going on and thinking of how I could get that result. And then that kind of started reading about the strip tilling and efficiencies of that, and I could still get my P and K down and come back with so I just started going with that, and finally had the confidence to do it. And the whole time my dad's like, Doug, you're an idiot. That's not going to work. We can't do that here. Our soils won't work like that. We don't drain good enough. We don't this. We don't that. And finally I said, yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to try it. And this company, Soil Warrior, had a program where I could rent one for a year to see what I thought of it. And I thought, well, there's my in. I'll try it and go with that. And decided after doing that 1 year, and even my dad at that point was like, oh shit, I think that's going to work. So we just kind of went with it, and introducing all the cover crops now we're starting to do. My son, Nick, is biggest into that, has more knowledge about it than I do. He spends 3 in the morning, he's out there researching stuff on the computer and everything in the shop, trying to figure out the right avenue to go, and we're seeing benefits from it. So, and like Ray said, it's like, you got to take a lot of, your neighbors are your biggest critics and stuff, and now it's kind of fun to hear them give us crap because we do things different, and it's working, and I don't care. So it's for us, it's for my family and our generations to come, and hopefully my grandchildren will take over this land someday, and the whole goal is just to give it to them better and healthier, so they don't have the struggles that I don't want them to have to slam their hand in the door in the old Steiger tractor. I want them to be able to move forward with a vision that's healthy for their family and everybody moving forward.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Just give him a hand. Thank you, Nick, for doing all that research. It's great. And I think that's what's going to find out that you're going to learn for the rest of your life. Okay, let's get started. And before I tell you a little bit about myself, it's going to be very little, because I'm just a messenger of an amazing, hopeful message. First, let's set the ground rules for today. Number 1, a stupid question is a question not asked. This is your day. This is your day. We're here as a human family, whether we like it or not, we're related to each other. Once you understand ecology and quantum physics, we're all one. Today is about learning. how we can better and change our operation. So please ask questions, please, because everybody else is thinking the same way, okay? Number two, we're gonna have methodology that we're gonna go from here, and we're gonna go to the demonstrations, and then we're gonna break you up into groups later on today, okay? And then we're gonna have a farmer panel, okay? What else? Please ask questions. This is your time. Please speak out when we're talking and there's a question and answer. Ray does not have all the answers. The only thing I have an advantage over you, a lot of you, I travel I've been all over the planet, a lot. The last 18 months, I've been in 6 continents. I've been in every state. So in reality, I turn out to be the largest soil health gossiper. Because I learn from the producers every time I go. The movement really started with the demonstrations and the producers, okay? The producers asking questions, okay? Now, let's set the tone. I'll show you why I got to where I'm at. I told the group yesterday, a lot of you know that Archuleta is not a common name. I grew up in northern New Mexico. Our family's been there for 500 years. Dad said, you know, son, since we've been here in this area for a long time, you know, I want you to do 2 things in life: work hard and don't marry your cousins. I married a girl from Missouri. So let me tell you how I started my career. Did a couple of years in the Peace Corps in Guatemala. Got back, started college. And I do things the hard way. I got married, had a set of twins, and started school and worked full-time for NRCS. You guys don't realize I'm only 38, but I look like a bad 90. So I do things wrong. Okay, so that being said, here's how my career started. 5-6 years in New Mexico designing irrigation systems. So I understand irrigation. 5 years in Missouri, 5 years in Oregon and Idaho, 10 years in North Carolina, and the last 5 years in Missouri. I think you're beginning to get a feeling this guy can't hold a job. When you work with the agency, I think my daughters think they were military kids. In fact, several of them joined the military because it was very common for them to move around. But here is where my true journey of regenerative agriculture started. And before I explain that and what changed me, I'm going to make a quick definition for regenerative agriculture. This is my own personal definition. I'm not asking people, because really it started with soil health. And how many have heard of the term regenerative agriculture? It is ubiquitous all over the world. When I started using the term, this is what I thought about regenerative agriculture, is this simple term. If you understand and you take the root word of regenerative agriculture means to renew. Renewal. The planet and your body renews every day. Regenerative agriculture is allowing your body, the soil and the natural ecosystem to renew. So regenerative agriculture is this: how to mimic nature. So when I say regenerative agriculture, is how can we emulate nature so that we don't go broke financially? How can we mimic the design and the patterns? Everybody with me? That's my definition. How can we mimic nature? Okay? And so the more we mimic it, the more money we can save. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question to the whole audience. How many of you had an uncle, an aunt, a relative, mom, dad, grandpa, or a professor and asked you this: if you're going to get in agriculture, your job is to nurture, relationship, understand nature, mimic its design, its patterns, its principles. Work with it. Raise your hand. Very rare. You know what? I did not have one professor tell me that. When I finished school, it would have been really nice to have one professor say, Ray, focus, Focus, like my wife talks to me. Focus, focus. You see all these classes you took? Chemistry here in this department in silos. Ecology here, agronomy here, plant pathology here, entomology here. And not one professor, not one class, one semester than what we're going to do today would have changed my life. It would have gotten me fired quicker from NRCS. Because this is what I'm talking about. Nobody put the pieces together for me and says, Ray, your goal is to emulate. You know what I learned in school? It's about yield. How much can we get more in the tank for milk? How much yield can we get? Force, control, manipulate nature. She's a machine. That's what I was taught. Yield, 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 yield. And my farmers are going broke. This is what changed me. I can tell you I was a district conservationist in Oregon. I lived on the Idaho side, and every morning the beautiful Snake River separated the two states. And when irrigation season came on, the river turned into chocolate. And another thing that really bothered me, and I took it very, very personally, because I do believe that I am a public servant. And I always believed that working with NRCS. I said, how come my farmers are going broke? How come my neighbor cannot bring his son and daughter and they farm 500 prime acres in the Treasure Valley? If you understand the Treasure Valley, there's 5 rivers. We got water to throw. Soils are amazing. The climate can grow hops, lettuce, onion. You can grow everything there. Why can we not support 2 families on 500 acres? You know what the response was from my peers? Shut up, Ray. Go out there and do your plans, spend money. Don't ask questions. That was the narrative. Couldn't figure it out. 2007, something incredible happened. I got promoted and lined up at the tech center, and this is what changed. I definitely recommend this book because it changed my life. I don't know if it'll change you, but it did for me. The book is called Holistic Management by Alan Savory. What is holistic management? Holistic management is this. You see the whole. Reductionist science is this. You see in little pieces. When you go to the doctor, how does the doctor look at you? Oh yeah, you got this problem. We'll go to the liver doctor, to the heart doctor. They break you up into pieces. Neither is a physician that understands the whole collective how the body works. That's why I do not go to medical doctors for chronic disease. They know nothing about nutrition. The body is self-healing, self-organizing, self-regulating. Guess what else works like that? Your soil. Your soil is self-healing, self-organizing, self-regulating. You can't heal your soil. All you do is provide the opportunity. What we're going to show you, it'll heal itself. Holistic management says put all the pieces together. One example, I'm going to show you how all of us have been impacted by reductionist science. You know what people tell me, John, when I say, well, Ray, you don't understand Minnesota. It's cold here. It's wet. We have clay soils. I've heard that same message all over the globe. You know what my response is? Oh, do you mean Minnesota's part of the moon? You guys are part of Mars? You mean you don't have microbes in here? You mean the border stops, biology and life doesn't work in Minnesota? Do you know what changes the soils in clays and sands and silts? Life. Microbes do that. Biology does that. One of the most coolest statement I ever heard from a scientist. It was Russian again. Don. The strongest geological force on the planet is life. What we're going to learn today is the power of life and how we can transform our soils through life. Not chemistry, not physical tillage. That fixes nothing. Nature does not want to be approached that way. She wants to be approached biologically and ecologically. And by the way, let's make it very clear what the word ecology means. Study of the house. The planet is the house. Economics, eco. Study the money of the house. Do you know why a majority of people come to these workshops? Do they come for the ecology? Never do I hardly ever see, oh yeah, I came because I love ecology. They come here, economics. They're not making it. Then they find out, wow, when you're done by today, you'll understand it was always about the ecology. Then the economics works out. What we're going to learn today is how to mimic nature so that we don't have to buy inputs, so we can reduce them. I have farmers, do not buy fertilizer no more. No more fungicides, no more insecticides, no more seed treatment. Great yields with non-GMO. They are making money. Even when corn goes to $3, they're making money. That's what this is about today. How can we get the economics and the ecology to work together? Let me summate this, and we'll go all here. Folks, back to holistic thinking. What we should be asking, not what things are different, what do we have in common? I can tell you what you have in common in New Mexico soils, Venezuela soils, Brazilian soils. They all run on biology. The Venezuelan soils, they speak Spanish, but when you till, they'll eat your organic matter and they'll say it and they'll do it in Spanish. Here they'll do it in English. They still work the same, ladies and gentlemen. Be careful how we need to ask ourselves in holistic science, what do we have in common? So holistic management says, back off, back off. How is everything connected? What do we have in common? Reductionist science is great if you're going to build a spaceship and you're going to Mars. But it's horrible for healing biological systems. Does not work. Okay? So now, let's get ready for this last thing. Now what we're going to go, I'm going to ask, are we getting ready for the range simulator? It's getting close. I asked him to raise it up. What we're going to see, I'm going to tell you the truth, why this movement has grown. Is it because of people like me? No. The soil. The soil is going to speak to us in a little while. We collected soils from your area, and we're going to let the soil speak. And this demonstration that we created in RCS by Doug, it was Bud Davis, has changed people's lives. The demonstration has changed people's lives. It has crushed the paradigms. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you real quick that's very important on the journey of soil health and regenerative agriculture. This is a common characteristics of all the landowners. One, they had to admit they were wrong. I did too. I spent 8 years in university and I realized I wasn't taught right. It was based on a science of not humility, but a science of control. Please understand the old current model was based on a science. It's based on science too, but it's a science asking one question. Today, you're going to learn the science that's asking this one simple question, a question of humility. This is the way it goes. How does nature do it? Please understand, your farm came from the prairie and it came from the forest. It works the same. And I'm going to show that to you today. Are you ready to continue your journey? Were you guys ready to make some money? Change your lives? Heal the planet? Reduce disease? We fix the soil. We can do all that. Ready?